When we talk about health and wellness, and we talk about the pandemic, and we talk about the issues in the Black community, we're here in Mount Vernon where it's been a 4 or 5 year fight to keep a hospital. And that correlates with the health and wellness of communities of color, of poor communities. When you're dealing with the issues of chronic illnesses in the Black community, we could say Black Lives Matter. We could talk about police brutality, which is necessary. But Black people, there are more Black people dying each year from heart disease and high blood pressure, and high cholesterol, and diabetes, and different chronic illnesses than there are police killings. So if we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter, we're going to rally throughout the country. We also need to be steadfast and mindful and rally for healthy eating and trying to eradicate these diseases out of the Black community. I think that is very important. That is very important. I started my journey, I'm not even going to use that. I started my journey on health and wellness because I was a caregiver of my mother for 3 to 4 years. And when I first noticed that my mother was sick, she ended up having open heart surgery. And then from there, I took her to every doctor's appointment that she had every morning. I got off work at 7 o'clock in the morning. I went to her house, I bathed her, I got her breakfast, got her throughout the day. About 1 o'clock, I went home. But in those 3 to 4 years, not one doctor, not one specialist told her to change her diet. They just continued giving her medication after medication after medication. Then she ended up having her lower leg amputated from the diabetes, and then she had to have another surgery after that, and then that surgery was really too much for her system, and then 2 months after that she passed away. But I say that when I was taking care of her, I started noticing that, wait a minute, I'm on the same meds as my mother. You know, like, what's going on here? So when I go to the doctor, and, you know, I'm talking to him about it, and he says, well, it's hereditary. It's hereditary, Damon. You know, your mother, look, she had all these illnesses. It's hereditary. So I said to the doctor, I said, well, how is it hereditary when I'm adopted? It can't be hereditary. That's not my biological mother, right? So, you know, for doctors to just dismiss that because Black people come up with these illnesses and diseases, that has always had to be hereditary. And in one of the chapters I talk about that it's not your DNA, it's what you eat every day. And the reason why we have generations upon generations of these chronic illnesses because we all eat the same food. You're gonna have what great grandma had if you're eating the same cooking recipes that's handed down that great grandma had. You're gonna have the same diseases, without a doubt. The Black community is gonna have the same type of illnesses when we have food deserts, when we can't get fresh fruits and vegetables in our communities. We have nothing but fast food, soul food, fried food, restaurants. It's the same restaurants on the same block. So what do you expect is going to happen that this area will have the same diseases? So a friend of mine, which I think mostly everybody knows, watching the news, he's running for mayor. Eric Adams is a close friend of mine. We were in black law enforcement organizations back in the 90s. And I saw him, first I saw an interview where he talked about that he had diabetes and he had actually went blind in one eye. And they were talking about amputating his hands and his feet. And he reversed his diabetes. His eyesight came back. He didn't have to have his hands and feet amputated, just changing his lifestyle and how he ate. So I decided to do the same thing, because when we're on these medications for years and years and years, there's side effects. Like they talk about, although it doesn't cure you, number one, it just hides the symptoms. But we're talking about